Keep quiet, old man. No one asked for your opinion. That's what my son-in-law said to me this morning, in the very house I built with my own hands. My name is Michael Morris. I'm 72 years old, born and raised in Cleveland, and I spent over 40 years working as a mason under the burning sun. So listen carefully, because by the time you finish this story, you'll understand why one day I sold everything. The house, the furniture, even the tools I once lived by. Then you tell me, would you have done the same? It was 5:30 in the morning, still dark outside. I got up like I always do, slow, careful, every bone in my body creaking in protest. That's what decades of hauling cement bags will do to you. I put on the same old clothes, worn jeans, a faded plaid shirt, boots with soles so thin you could feel the floor. I stepped out of my room, or what used to be the storage shed before they turned it into my space. 10 by 10 feet, bare walls, a single cot and a small table. That's where I sleep now. I made my way down the hall as quietly as I could. No need, really. They don't get up before noon. Not after another night of streaming and laughter behind closed doors. In the kitchen, I flipped on the light. It flickered twice before holding. I'd been meaning to replace the bulb, but either I didn't have the time or the strength anymore, maybe both. I filled the pot with water and scooped out some cheap instant coffee, the kind that smells sharp and bitter, the kind that doesn't ask you if you're tired. As the water began to boil, I stared out the window. The street was empty except for a barking dog and the neighbor's rooster greeting the cold dawn. This used to be my favorite part of the day, the quiet hour when the world hadn't started yet. Back then, silence meant peace. Now it's just the only thing that listens. The smell of coffee filled the room. I poured myself a cup and sat at the kitchen table, my table, though only one chair remains. The others are in the living room now, so they can watch TV comfortably. I took a sip, hot enough to sting my tongue, but I didn't mind. I liked the burn. It reminded me I was still alive. I looked around the house, the cracked walls, the worn floorboards, the photos missing from the shelf. And as I sat there in that quiet kitchen, one thought came to me, the kind that sits heavy in your chest and won't leave. Somewhere along the line, I stopped being the man of this house. I'd become a guest, and worse, a burden.
I look around my kitchen. My kitchen, or at least, it used to be. Now it feels like someone else's space. There are dirty dishes stacked in the sink from last night. Empty chip bags on the counter. Soda bottles half full and sticky on the table. Things I didn't buy. Things I didn't touch. But things I'll have to clean up when I get home from work. Then I hear footsteps. Slow, heavy ones. Someone's awake. For a second, I hope it's my daughter, Sarah. At least with her, I can still talk without feeling small. But no, it's him. Kevin, my son-in-law. The man who's been living under my roof for, I don't even know how long anymore. Too many years. He stumbles into the kitchen, hair wild, eyes swollen from sleep, t-shirt wrinkled and stained. He yawns without covering his mouth and scratches his stomach like he owns the place. Any coffee left? He grumbles. No asterisk. Good morning asterisk. No smile. Not even a glance in my direction. Yeah, I say quietly. The pot's right there. He looks at the coffee pot, then at me, then back again. And with that lazy, smug tone of his, he says, "You're not gonna pour me a cup?" I pause, count to 3. Feel the blood rise behind my eyes. Easy, Michael, easy. I'm running late, Kevin, I manage. You can pour it yourself. He just stares at me. That same look he always gives when I tell him no. That look that says, asterisk, you're old. You don't matter anymore. Asterisk. And then he says it. The words that will burn into my memory forever. Shut up, old man. Nobody asked you. The silence that follows feels like the air just turned to concrete. Thick, cold, crushing. My fingers tighten around the coffee mug. My jaw locks. Something deep inside me, something that's been quiet for too long, starts to wake up. But I don't say a word. I just stare at him. And he stares back for a moment before shrugging, turning to the pot, and pouring himself coffee like nothing happened. Like he didn't just spit on my pride in my own kitchen. I finish what's left of mine in one gulp. It burns all the way down. But it's not the coffee burning me. It's anger. It's humiliation. It's the ache of knowing I don't belong in my own home anymore. I stand up, place my cup in the sink, and walk past him without a word. Back to my room, my shed, really. I grab my empty lunchbox, even though I forgot to pack anything. Not that it matters. I grab my backpack, the same one that's carried my tools for decades. Then my hat, old, sun-faded, stained with paint and lime. My work hat. My second skin. I step out of that little room, that shed they call my space, through the hallway, past the living room. There's that new couch they bought a couple months ago. The old one was just too ugly, Dad, Sarah had said. I didn't argue. I paid for it, like I always do. I open the front door, and the cold morning air slaps me awake. The sky's starting to lighten, just a thin line of dawn over Cleveland. I walk out, close the door behind me, and as I head down the quiet street toward the bus stop, something inside me shifts. It's like I just walked out of a place that doesn't belong to me anymore. Like I finally realized the truth. I don't live in that house. I just exist there. For the first time in years, I don't just feel tired. I feel angry. Not the loud kind, the deep kind. The kind that sits in your bones. I walk the 4 blocks to the bus stop. Other old-timers are already there. Bent shoulders, cracked hands, same lunchboxes, same silence. We nod, no words needed. We recognize each other. Men who've given their lives to work and still don't own peace. The bus groans to a stop. I climb in, drop my $3 in the slot, sit by the window. The city's waking up, storefronts unlocking, food trucks lighting their grills, life moving forward like it always does. But my mind's stuck on a loop. Shut up, old man. The words echo in my head, over and over, each time sharper than before. Shut up, old man. Shut up, old man. I get off at my stop, the corner near the new development site. Another big house, 2 stories, 3-car garage. The kind of home I spent my life building for other people, but never had for myself. Tony's already there, sleeves rolled up, mixing mortar. Morning, Mike. How's life? He calls. I force a smile. All good, Tony. Lie number 1 of the day. Because what am I supposed to say? That my son-in-law disrespected me in my own kitchen? That my daughter treats me like an inconvenience? That at 72, I'm still out here breaking my back while they sleep till noon? No, you don't say those things. You just grab the shovel and start mixing the cement. The sun's already climbing high, heavy and hot, pressing down on my shoulders like it's testing how much I've got left. My back aches. My hands burn inside these torn gloves. But I keep working. Mixing, carrying, stacking. Building another man's dream home while mine crumbles from the inside out. Every time my shovel hits the sand, I think. I think about my house, the one I built brick by brick, and how it doesn't even feel like mine anymore. About my tiny room, the one that used to hold my tools. About the living room I can't sit in because it's buried under their junk. About the kitchen I can't even drink coffee in without being told to shut up. I think about every year that slipped past me. Every time I kept quiet, convincing myself it was the right thing to do. She's your daughter, Mike. Let her handle it. She means well. That's what I used to tell myself. But now, all I can hear are his words. Asterisk. Shut up, old man. Asterisk. No, not anymore. The shovel sinks deep into the mix, heavy and wet. The sound cuts through the air like a heartbeat. I've done this my whole life, thousands of houses, thousands of days under the sun, but today feels different. Today, something inside me cracked open. I lift my eyes to the house we're building. Big windows, clean lines, fancy tile. A home for people who'll never know what it's like to earn it the hard way. And all I can think is, I built my own home with these hands. And now I sleep in a storage shed behind it. Because I gave it away. Because I trusted the wrong people. Because I thought family meant safety. Hey, Mike, you okay? Tony asks, his voice cutting through the noise. Yeah, I say, forcing a smile. Lie number 2. But inside, I can feel it. Something's shifting. The quiet man in me, the one who's been swallowing his pride for years, is starting to wake up. And this time, he's not going back to sleep. The sun hits hard around 2, the worst part of the day, when the air feels like it's boiling and every breath burns. Tony hands me a brick. I set it. Another. And another. The rhythm keeps my thoughts steady, but they're dark, sharp, alive. Mike, Tony says again, glancing at me. You look like something's eating you alive. I wipe the sweat from my forehead with my arm. It stings my eyes. I don't know if it's sweat or something else. It's nothing, man, I mutter. He narrows his eyes. Nothing, huh? I've known you 20 years, brother. You don't look like a man thinking about nothing. I don't answer, because he's right. I'm thinking about something. Something that's been building for a long, long time. Something they'll never see coming. And when I'm done, everything will change. I keep quiet. Keep laying bricks, one after another, same rhythm, same routine I've known my whole life. The sound of the trowel, the scrape of metal against stone, it's the only music I've got left. After a while, I ask Tony, you remember Grace? He stops mid-swing, looks at me. Of course I remember, brother. Your wife. God rest her soul. It's been, what, 15 years now? 15, I nod. And somehow, I'm still here. Still working. Like nothing's changed. Tony sets his tools down, sits on an upside-down bucket. He pulls out his water bottle, takes a long drink, then hands it over. I take a sip. The water's warm, but it cuts through the dust. When Grace died, I say, I thought I'd go right after her. 35 years together, Tony, 35. He nods slowly. You two had something real. The kind of marriage you don't see anymore. She was my reason for everything, I tell him. For getting up, for putting one foot in front of the other. I'd spend all day breaking my back under the sun. But the second I saw her smile when I got home, it was worth it. My voice starts to shake a little. It's been years since I've talked about her. Years since I've allowed myself to. When she passed, Sarah was 23. Just finished school, trying to find work. Suddenly, it was just the two of us. That house got so quiet, Tony. So damn quiet, you could hear the air move. He doesn't say a word, just listens. He's good at that. The first few months after Grace was gone were hell. I'd come home expecting her to be there. The smell of dinner, her laugh, the radio playing soft. But it was just silence. Just me and Sarah, two broken people trying to pretend we were fine. Tony nods again. Sarah was close to her mom, huh? She was her world, I say. Grace's little girl. She taught her everything. How to cook, how to stand tall, how to be kind. But when Grace died, Sarah lost all of that. She stopped smiling, stopped eating, just faded. Locked herself in her room most nights. I rub my face, rough palms scraping against old, dry skin. The dust clings to the sweat like glue. I didn't know how to help her, Tony. I could barely help myself. But she was my daughter. I had to keep going. I had to be the strong one. He nods. And you were, Mike. You always are. It stayed like that for 2 years. Me working sunup to sundown, Sarah trying to rebuild herself. We'd eat in silence, side by side, pretending we were moving on. But neither of us really did. The sun beats down. The air's thick with heat and memory. I look down at my hands, scarred, cracked, still holding on to things they should have let go of long ago. And then I tell him quietly. That's when Kevin showed up. Tony looks at me, that quiet look that says he already knows where this story's heading. Sarah met him at the clothing store downtown, I start. He came in a few times a week. Always dressed sharp, polite, talking smooth. Buying shirts he probably didn't need, just for an excuse to see her. Tony nods. And what did you think of him at first? At first, I thought he was a good man, respectful. He'd come over sometimes. Mr. Morris this, Mr. Morris that, always helping me with groceries, asking about my work, shaking my hand with that confident smile. The kind that makes you believe him. Tony grins faintly. Sounds like a solid guy. That's what I thought too, I say, my hands tightening around the shovel. And for the first time in years, Sarah was smiling again. After losing her mom, I hadn't seen that light in her eyes since the funeral. She laughed again. She talked again. And to me, that was everything. I grab the shovel and start mixing cement. I need to keep moving. It's easier to talk when your hands are busy. At first, Kevin made her feel special. Took her out to dinner, the movies, brought her flowers. He treated her like she mattered. And seeing her come back to life, that was worth more than anything to me. I pause, the shovel scraping the edge of the bucket. But nothing in this life comes free, Tony. Nothing. He watches me quietly as I keep stirring, even though the mix is already perfect. About 6 months later, I continue. He came to the house, dressed nice, nervous. Sat me down at the table and said, "Mr. Morris, I love your daughter, and I'd like your permission to marry her." Tony whistles. Old-fashioned. I like that. Yeah, I say softly. And what was I gonna do? My girl was happy again. After everything we'd been through, she deserved that. So I said yes. Gave him my blessing. Tony nods slowly. You did what any father would have done. They got married a year later. I paid for everything. The hall, the band, the food, even her dress. $15,000. All my savings from years of hard work. Every brick, every blister, it all went into that one day. Tony shakes his head. That's a lot, Michael. It was everything, I say quietly. But it was my daughter's wedding. The only one she'd ever have. Her mother wasn't there to see it, so I wanted to make it special. I wanted Sarah to have the kind of day her mom dreamed of for her. Tony leans on the shovel. And was it special? Yeah, I whisper. It was beautiful. Sarah looked just like Grace did on our wedding day. Same smile, same eyes, same glow. And I cried through half the ceremony because all I could think was, Grace should have been there to see it. We keep working. The sun starts to drop a little behind the trees. It's close to 3, the kind of hour where the day feels heavier than the bricks in your hands. After the wedding, I say, breaking the silence, they took a little honeymoon down to Florida. 3 days. I paid for that too. Tony smirks, half impressed, half sad. When they came back, Kevin told me they were going to start looking for an apartment. Said they had some savings and that by summer they'd be out on their own. Tony raises an eyebrow. But they didn't move out, did they? I shake my head. No, not even close. A week later, Sarah comes to me with that face, the one she used to make as a kid when she'd broken something. Dad, she says, can we stay here for a little while? Just till we save up for rent and the deposit. Kevin says we'll have enough in 6 months. Tony lets out a breath. 6 months, huh? That's what he said. And I believed him. Why wouldn't I? He was my daughter's husband, my family now. Tony chuckles darkly. Because men like him talk smooth, Michael. We lie when it's easy. Yeah, I say quietly. I learned that part later. But at the time, I didn't see a liar. I saw my daughter, still grieving her mom, still finding her way. I just wanted to help. So you said yes. I said yes, I repeat. I gave them my bedroom, the big one with the view of the patio, the one with the good closet. Told them, you're young, you need your space. Tony frowns. And you? I moved into the little room out back, the old tool shed, cleared out my gear, set up my cot, shoved my clothes in a corner, told myself it was temporary. Tony shakes his head. How long was it supposed to be? 6 months. And how long's it been? I look at him, really look. 10 years. Tony doesn't speak. He doesn't have to. The silence says it all. And this morning, I say quietly, that same man looked me dead in the eye and said, "Shut up, old man." Tony winces. In your own house? In my own damn house. For a while, all you can hear is the sound of the wind moving through the scaffolding. So what are you gonna do? He finally asks. I wipe the cement from my hands, stare up at the house we're building. Perfect, new, full of light. For someone else. I don't know yet, buddy, I tell him. But I'm gonna do something. Because I've had enough. Tony gives me that look. The kind that's half warning, half worry. Careful, Michael. That's your daughter. I know, I say, my voice rough. But it's also my life. And it's about damn time I take it back. I got home around 7 that night. Tired. Dirty. My clothes stiff with dried cement. My hands aching. My back screaming. But it was Friday. No work tomorrow. I could finally rest. When I opened the door, the first thing I saw stopped me cold. The living room, my living room, was packed with people. Kevin sat there, feet on my coffee table, beer in hand, laughing loud with 3 of his buddies. The TV blared a football game. Cigarette smoke hung thick in the air. Empty bottles everywhere. "Hey, Mr. Morris," Kevin yelled without even getting up. "You're home!" These are my buddies. Everyone. Meet my father-in-law, the asterisk owner of the house. He laughed. His friends laughed too. I couldn't tell if they were joking or mocking me. I just nodded, forced a smile, and walked straight to my room. I didn't have the strength for small talk. I just wanted a shower, a quiet meal, and maybe some sleep. But there was no quiet. The laughter kept going. The music got louder. Every cheer from that TV hit my walls like a hammer. I lay on my cot, staring up at the ceiling, the one with cracks I never got around to fixing. The paint was peeling. The air was thick. And that little room, it wasn't a bedroom. It was a storage shed. And the worst part? I wasn't living in it. I was stored in it. By midnight, they were still going. 1:30, 2 in the morning. Still laughing, still yelling. I thought about walking out there, asking them to quiet down. But then I stopped myself. Sure, it was my house. But somehow, it didn't feel like it anymore. I didn't want to be the bitter father-in-law, the grumpy old man who ruins the fun. So I stayed silent. That's how it went for months. Kevin always had friends over. They barbecue in asterisk my asterisk backyard, using asterisk my asterisk grill, asterisk my asterisk plates, asterisk my asterisk glasses. And when I got home from work, the place looked like a war zone. When I brought it up, Sarah would just smile and say, "Oh, Dad, don't be upset. They're just hanging out." You know how guys are, and I'd swallow it every time, because she was my daughter. And because seeing her smile, even if it cost me my peace, still meant something. At first, Kevin asterisk did asterisk work. He'd get up early, wear his nice shirt, clean shoes. "Sales meetings today, Mr. Morris," he'd say, sounding proud. And I thought, asterisk good. At least he's trying. Asterisk. But then, slowly that changed. He started sleeping in later, 9, 10 in the morning. "Meetings got pushed," he'd say. "Business is slow today. Better to start tomorrow. Tomorrow. Always tomorrow." Always an excuse. And while he slept in, I was out there, breaking my back to keep the lights on in a house that didn't even feel like mine anymore. Revenge plan? And then, one day, Sarah quit her job at the store. "What for, Dad?" Kevin's making good money now. Besides, someone needs to take care of the house. I didn't argue. Even though the house wasn't exactly asterisk, taken care of asterisk. The sink was always full of dishes. The floors covered with clothes, and half the time, I couldn't even find a clean shirt because she was too tired to do laundry. But I stayed quiet. Because she was my daughter. Because I didn't want to start a fight. 6 months turned into a year. "Dad, rent's just crazy right now," Sarah said one evening. "But we're almost there, I promise. Just a few more months." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But every week, new shopping bags showed up. New shoes, expensive makeup, fancy groceries I knew I hadn't paid for. And Kevin started bringing home imported beers, like he was celebrating something every night. I told myself it wasn't my business, that maybe they deserved to enjoy life a little. After all, Sarah was laughing again. And after losing Grace, hearing my daughter laugh again was enough to keep me breathing. So I kept paying the bills. The electricity, the gas, the water, the groceries, everything. And they just lived, as if I wasn't even there. Then one day, I came home from work, and the TV was gone. My old TV, the one I'd bought after Grace died, the one that kept me company on lonely nights. "It was just asterisk, so old asterisk, Dad," Sarah said. "Kevin got us a new one. Look, it's beautiful, right?" It was huge. Flat screen, expensive. And my TV? I found it outside, tossed near the trash cans, like it was junk. "You can keep it in your room if you want," Kevin said, smirking like he was doing me a favor. I nodded, didn't say a word. I carried it back to my tiny room, that old shed I slept in, and plugged it in. The screen flickered, faded, barely worked. But it was mine. Years passed. 2, 3, 4, and every morning I got up earlier, moved slower, hurt more. My knees cracked like dry wood. My back burned from decades of lifting bricks. But I didn't stop. I couldn't. Because if I did, who would pay for everything? Not them. Sarah and Kevin never offered a single dollar. Never once said, "Dad, let me cover the bill." Nothing. Then one afternoon, I came home early, around 4. The site had run out of materials, so the boss sent us home. I walked inside and there he was, Kevin, lying on the couch in his pajamas, watching TV, middle of the day. Weekday. "You didn't have work today, kid?" I asked, trying to sound calm, even though my blood was already starting to boil. "Nah, nothing did today, Mr. Morris. Better to just rest up," Kevin said. He didn't even glance at me, eyes glued to the TV, feet kicked up like he owned the place. "And Sarah?" I asked. "She's sleeping. Had a headache." 4 in the afternoon. My daughter asleep, my son-in-law watching cartoons, and me. Just getting home from another 10-hour shift, hauling bricks under the sun. I walked into the kitchen. Thought about making some coffee. No coffee, no bread. No milk, nothing. I opened the fridge, and it hit me. Empty. Well, not completely. There were a few bottles of Kevin's, fancy beer and half a slice of cake that was probably Sarah's. But food? Not a crumb. "Kevin!" I yelled. "There's no food." "Oh yeah," he called back. "We forgot to go to the store, Mr. Morris. Maybe you can pick some up after work?" After work. Like I hadn't just spent my whole day, sweating and breaking my back to keep this house running. But I didn't argue. I grabbed my wallet, walked 6 blocks to the supermarket, bought the basics. Bread, rice, eggs, coffee. Carried the heavy bags home, hands shaking by the time I reached the porch. And when I stepped inside, there he was. Still on the couch. Still watching TV. Didn't even offer to help. Sarah? Still in her room. I put the groceries away. Cooked a little dinner. Ate it alone, in silence, at that one chair that was still mine. And for the first time, a question crept in, one I didn't want to face. Had I made a mistake? Was letting them stay the worst decision of my life? Then I heard Sarah laughing in her room. That sound, her laughter, the same one I hadn't heard since Grace died. And I told myself, no, it's worth it. As long as she's happy, it's worth it. But that lie got harder to believe with each passing day. Every day, the house felt less like mine. Every day, I felt smaller, quieter, more like a guest than a father. Then came year 5, year 6, year 7. Still no sign of them leaving. No savings, no apartment, no plan. But the requests kept coming. Dad, the fridge is acting weird. Can you get a new one? Mr. Morris, the water heater broke. We'll need to replace it. Dad, I need new shoes. Mine are worn out. And I paid. I always paid. Because that's what fathers do, right? Good fathers take care of their family, even when their family stops taking care of them. Nobody ever asked if I needed new shoes. Nobody noticed the holes in my boots, the frayed edges of my shirts, the way my cot sagged in the middle. Nobody asked how I was feeling, if I was tired, if I needed help. I was just the old man who worked. The one who paid. The one who stayed quiet. And just like that, 10 years passed. 10 years where I stopped being Michael Morris and became just Dad, the old man, the father-in-law. 10 years where my house stopped being mine, where my life stopped belonging to me. Until this morning, when Kevin said those words, shut up, old man, and something inside me finally woke up, something I couldn't bury anymore. But looking back, maybe the warning came earlier. About a year ago, something happened that should have opened my eyes, but I didn't want to see it. I still believe things would get better. It was my 71st birthday. I wasn't expecting much. I never did. Since Grace passed, birthdays just felt like any other day. Quiet, lonely, routine. But that morning, I don't know. I had a little bit of hope. Maybe Sarah would remember. Maybe she'd make me coffee. Maybe she'd just say happy birthday, Dad, I woke up early, same as always. Walked out to the kitchen. Dark, silent. They were still asleep. I made my coffee. Sat in my chair. The clock read 6 a.m. 71 years ago. That was the exact time I was born. Right when the first light touched the sky. My mother used to tell me, "You were born with the sunrise, Michael. That's why I named you after the archangel who brings the light." But that morning, there was no light. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the smell of burnt coffee. I went to work. "Hey, happy birthday, Michael." Tony called when I showed up at the site. He gave me a hug and a cupcake he'd bought from the bakery. It's not much, but it's from the heart. And I'll tell you the truth. I almost cried right there. My friend from work remembered. My own daughter didn't. I spent the rest of the day thinking maybe, just maybe, they were planning something. Maybe there'd be a surprise waiting at home. I got back around 7. Opened the door, heart pounding like a fool's. Nothing. Sarah was on the couch, eyes glued to the TV. Kevin was scrolling through his phone. They didn't even look up when I walked in. "Hey," I said softly. "Hey, Dad," Sarah answered, not even turning her head. I waited. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. Nothing. I went to take a shower, changed clothes, came back out. They were still in the same spot. I cooked myself some dinner, scrambled eggs and toast, like always, and ate alone in my one chair, in my one corner of that house. When I finished, I washed my plate, walked through the living room toward my room. "Good night," I said quietly. "Good night, Dad," Sarah mumbled, eyes still on the TV. That was it. Not one happy birthday. Not one We love you. Nothing. That night, I lay on my cot staring at the ceiling. The same old cracks I'd never bothered to fix, and I cried. Not from sadness, from rage, from helplessness, from realizing that to them, I didn't exist anymore. I was just the old man who worked, who paid, who stayed out of the way. The next week, things got worse. I came home from work to find all my tools, the ones I'd used to build that house, the ones I'd kept in perfect order, tossed out in the backyard, piled in the dirt like trash. I stormed inside. Sarah, what happened to my tools? She barely looked up from her phone. Oh, Dad, we needed space in your room. Kevin bought some weights and an exercise bike, and they didn't fit in our bedroom. But that's my room, Sarah. I know, Dad, but you're barely in there. You come home, you go to bed. That's it. Kevin needs somewhere to work out. I just stood there, speechless. My tools, 40 years of my life, dumped outside, so that man could lift weights in peace. And my room, the last thing that was truly mine, wasn't mine anymore. I picked up my tools one by one, shoved them under the cot. They barely fit, but I didn't say a word. Like always. Then, about 6 months ago, it hit a new level. It was a Sunday morning, early. They were still asleep, and I finally had the living room to myself. I sat down, turned on the news, and just enjoyed the quiet. Around 11, Kevin came out, yawning, scratching his neck, coffee mug in hand. He saw me sitting on the couch and frowned. "Hey, Mr. Morris," he said. "Can you do me a favor?" "What's that, kid?" "The game's about to start." "You know, that's my spot." I blinked. "Your spot?" "Yeah, that side of the couch. It's where I sit. I'm just used to it." "Can you move?" I stared at him, barely believing what I was hearing. My couch. In my house. And he was telling me to move because asterisk, that was his spot. Asterisk. "Sure, kid," I said quietly. I got up, walked back to my little room, sat on my cot. From there, I could hear the TV, the game, Kevin's loud cheers echoing through the house. And I sat alone, locked away in a corner of the home I built with my own 2 hands. But the worst day came about 3 months ago. I caught the flu bad. Fever, chills, body aches. Couldn't even get up. It was the first time in years I'd missed work. I lay there all day, sweating, shaking, listening to the sounds of their laughter in the living room. Not once did anyone open my door. No one asked if I needed water, medicine, or even a "how are you feeling, Dad?" Around 8 that night, I smelled pizza. I hadn't eaten all day, so I dragged myself out of bed and into the kitchen. They were sitting on the couch, watching TV, laughing. I opened the box. Only 2 slices left. "Dad, those are for Kevin." Sarah called out from the living room. "But I'm sick, honey." "I haven't eaten anything." "I know, but Kevin paid for that pizza. If you're hungry, you can make yourself something." I just stood there. My own daughter, the same little girl who once cried if I skipped dinner, was now denying me 2 slices of pizza. I closed the box slowly, made myself a cup of tea, went back to my room. And that night, lying under my thin blanket, I decided something. This couldn't go on. Something had to change. But I didn't know what or how. Not yet. The weeks that followed were worse. Kevin got bolder, meaner. "Hey, old man, move," he'd say when I was standing in his way. Or when his friends came over, he'd joke, "Careful, the landlord's home," and they'd all laugh. Sarah never stopped him, never defended me. She'd just look away, like I was invisible. And every time she did, I felt another piece of me crumble. My pride, my dignity, my name. All the things that made me asterisk were vanishing right in front of them. I stayed quiet because I didn't want to lose her, because I was afraid of being alone. But inside, something was building, slow, steady, unstoppable. And soon, That silence was going to end. Until this week. Until this morning when Kevin said those words to me, greater than, "Shut up, old man. Nobody asked you." And it was like someone flipped a switch inside my head. Suddenly, I could see it all. Everything I'd put up with. Every insult I'd swallowed. Every piece of myself I'd given away. And right there, walking out of my own house toward work, I made a decision. A decision that would change everything. One they'd never see coming. Because I wasn't that Michael anymore. Not the one who kept quiet. Not the one who apologized for existing in his own home. Now I was something else. Now I was awake. And when a man like me wakes up after 10 years of silence, there's no going back. That night, I didn't sleep. I just lay there on my cot, staring at the cracked ceiling, thinking, planning, remembering who I used to be. Around 3 a.m., I turned on the light. I pulled an old box from under the cot, the one that held the only things truly mine. The deed, the bills, the tax receipts. Every single piece of paper had my name on it. This house was mine. Every wall, every brick, every inch of soil, mine. I unfolded the deed and read it from start to finish. 35 years ago, Grace and I had bought this place for $40,000. 10 years of sacrifice, skipped meals, long nights, and endless labor to pay it off. Now, houses like mine were going for over $220,000, and mine was better, bigger, with a yard, in a good part of town. I folded the deed carefully and hid it, not in the usual spot, but somewhere no one would ever think to look. Then I sat back down on the edge of my cot. An idea had started forming in my head, an idea that both scared me and filled me with something I hadn't felt in years. Excitement. The next morning, before the sun was even up, I left the house quietly. They were still asleep, as always. I walked downtown to the notary's office near the square. A young woman greeted me with a polite smile. "Good morning, sir. How can I help you?" "I need some information," I said. "About selling a house." "Of course," she replied, motioning for me to sit. My palms were slick with sweat. My heart was racing like I'd done something wrong. "Is the property in your name?" "Yes, all of it. Any debts, liens, mortgage?" "No, it's paid off." "Free and clear. Perfect," she said. "Then you can sell whenever you like. You'll just need the title, your ID, and the buyer's paperwork." I nodded, writing everything down in my small notebook. When I walked out of that office, I wasn't just tired old Michael anymore. I was a man with a plan, with knowledge, with power. And for the first time in 10 years, I felt alive. I spent the whole morning walking downtown, stopping at every real estate office I could find. At each one, I asked the same question, asterisk, how much could a house like mine be worth? I gave them the details, the size, the neighborhood, the condition. One man leaned back in his chair and said, between $240,000 and $260,000. Easy. Maybe more if it's in good shape. $250,000. That was my house. My sweat. My calloused hands. The sum of 40 years under the sun. When I got home around noon, Kevin was in the same spot, half lying on the couch. Sarah was scrolling on her phone. No one even looked up. No one asked where I'd been. They never did. I went straight to my room, sat on the edge of my cot, and pulled out an old notebook. Page by page, I started writing electricity, groceries, gas, repairs, furniture, their clothes, their drinks. 10 years of bills, 10 years of silence, 10 years of asterisk paying for their comfort. When I added it all up, the numbers stared back at me like a slap, about $70,000. $70,000 I could have saved. $70,000 I'll never see again. That night, I ate alone. Eggs, toast, and the decision that changed everything. I wasn't telling them a thing. No warnings. No arguments. No fake promises. Because I knew how it would go. Sarah would cry, say, asterisk, Dad, how could you do this? Kevin would swear he'd change, talk about new jobs, new plans. But 10 years of lies don't become truth overnight. So on Monday, I went to work like always. Only this time, during lunch, I walked to the bank instead of the food truck. I opened a new account, one they didn't know existed. In whose name? The teller asked. Just mine, I said. Any beneficiaries? No, just me. She slid the new card across the counter. And for the first time in 10 years, I felt it. Control. Quiet, steady, and mine again. The next few days felt strange. Everything looked the same. I still woke up before sunrise, still dragged my old boots to work, still came home exhausted. But inside, something had shifted. Now I knew this wasn't forever. Now I had a plan. A way out. Sarah noticed before anyone else. Dad, are you okay? You seem different. I'm fine, honey. Just tired. Are you sure? You've been quiet lately. It's my age, Sarah. I'm just getting old. But it wasn't age. It was the opposite. For the first time in years, I felt alive. Awake. Like I finally had a reason to keep going. That Wednesday, I did something I hadn't done in a decade. I kept my paycheck. All of it. Not a single dollar left on the counter. Not for the bills, not for groceries, not for gas. For the first time in 10 years, they'd have to figure it out themselves. Dad, can I have some money for the grocery store? Sarah asked the next day. I can, honey. They paid me less this week, but what are we going to eat? I don't know, Sarah. Maybe Kevin can help. She just stood there, confused, like I had spoken another language. That night, nobody cooked. No smells of food, no laughter, no warmth. I heard them order takeout. With what money? I didn't care. I ate a few crackers I'd hidden in my room. And for the first time, they went to bed hungry. Not because there wasn't food, but because I wasn't the one providing it anymore. The days that followed were heavy with silence. Kevin looked at me differently. Suspicious. Sarah kept asking if I was mad. I'm fine, I told them. But the truth was, I wasn't just fine. I was free inside at least. While they lived in their bubble of comfort, I was outside quietly moving the pieces. Making calls. Gathering documents. Preparing my freedom. Because I had made up my mind. There was no turning back. This house, my house, was going to be sold. And they were going to have to find somewhere else to live. I had paid enough. I had endured enough. And for once in my life, I was going to be fair to myself. 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks of silence so thick you could slice it with a knife. They didn't understand what was happening, and I didn't explain a thing. Then, on Saturday morning, the electric bill arrived. $150. I read it, folded it once, and left it on the table. For the first time in 10 years, I didn't pay it. By Monday, Sarah noticed. Dad, the electric bill came. I know, honey. Are you going to pay it? I can't this month. I don't have enough, but they'll cut it off. Then Kevin should pay it. He uses the electricity, doesn't he? She froze, like she couldn't process what I just said. Like the idea of Kevin paying for something was something out of science fiction. 3 days later, when I came home from work, the house was dark. They'd cut the power. Kevin was furious. Mr. Morris, they cut the power. What happened? I didn't pay it. What? Why not? I didn't have the money. So what are we supposed to do now? I don't know, Kevin. You work in sales, right? Pay it. Call them to reconnect it. His face twisted with anger, but he didn't say another word. He slammed the door so hard the frame shook. Sarah stood in the kitchen, eyes watery, lips trembling. but she didn't speak either. The next evening, when I came home, the lights were back on. Someone had paid. Maybe Kevin, maybe Sarah, but it wasn't me. And that small fact filled me with something I hadn't felt in years. Asterisk, asterisk, satisfaction. Asterisk, asterisk. It was working. The control was shifting. The next day, I made another move. I met with a real estate agent named Ricardo, a man in his 50s, sharp suit, calm voice. I want to sell my house, I told him. Fast and quietly. Understood, he said. Is the property occupied? Yes, my daughter and her husband live there. But the deed's in my name. Only mine. Do they know? No, and I don't want them to. Not until it's all done. Ricardo studied me for a moment. He didn't ask questions, just nodded. He'd probably seen 100 stories like mine. All right, Mr. Morris, he said. Here's what we'll do. You tell me when they're out of the house. I'll bring buyers. Once we have someone serious with cash ready, we'll move fast. You'll only have to tell them once everything's signed. How long will that take? If your price is fair, maybe a month. 2 at most. I looked him straight in the eye. Let's start. The next few days felt like I was living in a spy movie. I'd text Ricardo whenever Kevin left. Sarah almost never did, but sometimes she'd visit a friend or go shopping. Those were the windows. The moments Ricardo would show up with potential buyers. He'd walk them through the house, the living room, the yard, the bedrooms that no longer felt like mine. I watched in silence from the corner, pretending to fix something or sweep. After the third visit, Ricardo pulled me aside. It's a good property, Mr. Morris. I already have 2. Serious offers, one for $240,000. Another for $250,000. $250,000. More than I'd ever dreamed. With that, I could buy a small apartment quiet, simple, just for me, and still have enough left to live peacefully for the rest of my days. I'll take the $250,000, I said. Perfect, Ricardo replied with a smile. I'll start the paperwork. We'll be ready to sign in about 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 14 days until everything changed. For me and for them. Meanwhile, inside the house, the tension grew heavier by the hour. Since I'd stopped buying food, they had to fend for themselves. And they hated it. Kevin's looks grew colder. Sarah's questions grew softer. Dad, what's wrong? Are you mad at me? I'm not mad, honey. I'm just tired. Tired of what, Dad? Of everything, Sarah. Of everything. Something in my tone must have scared her. That night, I heard her crying in her room. But for the first time in my life, I didn't go to her. I didn't comfort her. She was 38. It was time she learned what life feels like when no one shields you from it. A week later, there was a knock on my door. Kevin. That was rare. Mr. Morris, can I come in? Go ahead. He stepped in, awkward, almost nervous, and sat on the edge of my cot. Look, Mr. Morris, he began, I know things have been weird lately. I just want you to know I'm saving. For real? We almost have enough for a deposit on an apartment. I stared straight at him, searching his eyes for something genuine. Sincerity, shame, anything. But all I saw was the same thing I'd seen for 10 years. Excuses. How much have you saved? I asked. He hesitated. About $500. 500. In 10 years. I almost laughed. Kevin, this house is worth over $250,000. You think 500 is a plan? It's not even a start. He dropped his gaze. Look, I'm just asking for a little more time. 1 more year. I promise. I shook my head. Slowly. Calmly. No, Kevin. What? No more. Time's up. But why? What did we do wrong? I almost laughed. What did they do wrong? Everything. But explaining it to him would have been like talking to a wall. You'll find out soon enough. I said quietly. Now get out, Kevin. I want to sleep. He stood there a second, confused, angry, and then walked out without another word. That night I couldn't sleep, but not from anxiety this time. It was excitement, because it was almost over. Everything I had planned, everything I'd endured, was finally about to end. The next morning, Ricardo called. "Mr. Morris, the buyer's ready. He has the full amount. We can sign on Tuesday, 10 a.m. at the notary's office." "Perfect," I said. "Have you told your family yet?" "I'll tell them Monday." The day before, Ricardo hesitated for a moment, then said softly, "Understood." He knew this wasn't just a sale, it was freedom. It was justice. The weekend crawled by. I watched them from my chair, the two of them laughing on the couch, eating, scrolling through their phones, completely unaware that their world was about to collapse. And me? I felt calm. For the first time in 10 years, I felt peace in my own house. Monday came. I got up early, earlier than usual. I put on my cleanest clothes, combed my hair, and looked in the mirror. For the first time in years, I saw again, Michael Morris. Not Dad, not the old man, but the man who built this house with his bare hands. The man who deserved respect. I walked out to the kitchen. They were both there, eating breakfast strange. They were never up this early. Sarah, Kevin, they looked up. "I need to talk to you." Sarah frowned. "What's wrong, Dad?" "Sit down." They sat. I stayed standing. "Tomorrow," I said, steady and clear, "I'm signing the papers to sell this house." Silence. A silence so thick you could almost hear the air crack. "What?" Sarah finally whispered. "You heard me. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., the sale is finalized. The buyer's already paid. Everything's arranged. You have until Friday to move out." Sarah's face went pale. Her lips trembled. No, Dad, you can't. You can't do that." But I could. And I was. What happened next? The tears, the shouting, the guilt. Doesn't really matter. Because for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't bend. I stood my ground. I had made my decision, and I was finally strong enough to keep it. The next morning, I went to the notary's office. I watched as the papers were stamped, one by one. Each seal sounded like a nail closing a door behind me, one that I would never open again. When the notary handed me that envelope, I felt its weight. $250,000. My freedom. My dignity. My life. By Thursday, Sarah and Kevin were gone. I didn't see them leave. Tony told me he saw a truck outside, boxes stacked high, furniture wrapped in blankets. And when they drove away, they didn't look back. The Ramirez family moved in 2 days later. A young couple with 2 little kids. They painted the walls. They planted flowers. They made the place theirs. And that's good. That's how it should be. That house deserved laughter again. It just wasn't my laughter anymore. Now it's been 6 months. 6 quiet, peaceful months since I walked out of that house for the last time. I'm sitting on the balcony of my apartment as I tell you this. It's small, 1 bedroom, a narrow kitchen, a little bathroom, but it's mine. Every corner, every sound, every breath of air in here is mine. No one tells me where to sit. No one eats my food. No one calls me old man. The apartment cost me $110,000. I still have $140,000 in the bank. For the first time in 50 years, I don't have to wake up at 5. I don't have to carry cement. I don't have to bow my head to anyone. My knees still ache sometimes, but not as much. My back still reminds me of all those years, but now it's just a whisper, not a scream. I sleep in a real bed. I make my coffee the way I like it, black, strong, and in silence. Tony visits every week. He always says, "You look younger, Michael." And I tell him, that's because I'm finally living my own life. Sarah has called me 3 times in these 6 months. The last call was a week ago. She invited me to lunch. I told her I wasn't ready yet. She cried a little. Said she understood. Said she loved me. And maybe, one day, I'll forgive her enough to meet again. But for now, this is my time. My time to rest. My time to breathe. My time to live. Sometimes I ask myself if I went too far. If selling the house was too harsh. But then I remember the morning Kevin told me, "Shut up, old man." My forgotten birthday. The 2 slices of pizza I wasn't allowed to eat. And the storage shed where I slept while they enjoyed my bedroom. And I know I did the right thing. Because kindness without limits turns into slavery. And love without respect isn't love, it's weakness. That morning when I walked away, I didn't just sell a house. I sold the last 10 years of pain. And I bought back my peace. I'm 73 years old now. And for the first time in my life, I'm free.